Welcome back to the show, everyone. I have my buddy Jaden Bales, the Wyoming correspondent, on today. Thanks for being on here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been a while since we talked, and I'm excited to catch up and tell a few stories, and then maybe we can also dissect some mishaps along the way.
Yeah. I first want to thank you again on the air as a way of promoting the book there for writing a review on Amazon there. Mm-hmm. Appreciate people who have been supporting the book. It's available in Ketchikan at Parnassus. It's going to be available at Rainy Day Books in Juneau, and then of course is on Amazon and on Kindle. So there's the sales pitch. There's the end of my ads. What's up, man?
We're supposed to get a copy at some point. We ordered one. Jess and I did. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then, well, let me just say, Jess ordered it. I've already read it, and it's freaking awesome. I love, like, when you pick up a book, or in this case, you know, like your manuscript that you wrote, and you smile to yourself as you're reading it. You know, you hit sections, and like you'll just be grinning. That's how you know it's a good book, man. So, yeah, it was really a pleasant read, and I appreciate you letting me, let me get I got an early peek at it, so you did really well on it.
Thanks. Well, that beta reader thing was important because there are certain things that you think make sense, but then to other people it doesn't make sense at all. And anytime that you're doing anything artistic, it's you kind of wonder about that. But at the same time, it's like you can't assume or hope or, you know, everybody's going to like it. Everyone's going to agree with it. Everyone's going to get it. Like, you just got to kind of do it. But
yeah, I was designing T-shirts yesterday for work, and I had that same conundrum. I'm like, I can't tell if this design is great or if it sucks. So hopefully they like what they get.
Yeah,
because I'm not gonna sit there and go back and forth all day long and never get it done. So.
No, but so thanks for that. Like you said, we haven't talked in a little bit, and one of the things that came up and I wanted to ask you about is the Golden State Warriors were doing commemorative like ticket stubs and championship rings, and you could like buy the NTF.
The ring.
NFT, yeah.
The non-fungible token.
Yeah, and I thought, oh man, that's you and I had talked off the air briefly about this a couple of weeks ago, but I wonder if this is going to go into the hunting and outdoors realm, and if it does, what would be an NFT thing that you would buy for your collection?
Okay, so I've thought deeply about this already.
Oh, you're already there. Did you podcast about this? Or anything?
No.
Okay.
No, definitely not. It's so nascent. You know, it's so early that I don't think it's really got a big following, especially once you've reached these like split off groups. You know, like sports right now is really diving into NFTs. But it's because an NFT is basically you're just taking like these things that people already thought were really valuable in their physical form, and then you're just making digital forms of those things. Mm-hmm. So I think it'd be harder to do it in the hunting space because like we don't naturally collect like. Maybe people are out there collecting Cam Hanes' old running shoes or something like that.
I think absolutely. Cam Hanes' running shoes, I think if you could get a digital version of one of Roosevelt's elk or something like that, I think I think there's a ton of people, like someone else is going to have this idea and they're going to make a ton of money off it. I don't know what to do with it, but man, and I wouldn't probably be able to afford anything. Like I could probably get the Jaden Bales antelope, but...
I like that. So, like, if anyone has watched the Fireball video from Hush, right? It's like I think it's one of the most watched elk hunting videos of all time. But the Fireball video, like him releasing that arrow as that elk walks through the meadow, like that could be a GIF NFT in and of itself. As that arrow, like you see that fletch fly through the air, and like that, I definitely see a possibility for it. I just think that like hunters in general, like as a major generality, we're kind of already laggards, right? Like how long did it take for us to get into technical apparel?
Yeah.
So I don't see it necessarily being right away, but it could happen, man. It could happen.
There's so many different pockets of different types of hunters out there, which makes it interesting because you've got kind of the wealthy people who just pay for any sort of experience hunt, whatever. And I'm going to buy a ranch so I can hunt it. Just money is no option. And then you have the other people who are just kind of grinding through, like, okay, what should can I afford? I have to buy 4 boxes of ammo right now because I won't have it, but that means maybe I don't buy groceries for a couple days. By the way,
I'm in that exact pickle right now.
Yeah.
It's funny because I came in early to the office today so I could maybe make a call to Unknown Munitions, try to get them to develop some loads for me, which is all part of this bigger story that we'll dive into at some point.
Well, let's just do it right now. There's the segue. We've addressed trophies and NFTs, and now we go into your bear story.
So, for those who don't know, bear season with rifles starts on May 1st, generally in Wyoming. There's some places it starts April 15th. What day does it start up there in Alaska for black bears?
You just can't take them out of the den, but it's open from the beginning of September all the way through until the end of June.
Wow. Okay, so there's not really like a break. It's like just always open.
No, there's not really a break. But there's like you get your fall bear, and there's some good times to get it. But when they're, once they get past a certain point, when it's just kind of scummy and gross, and then during the winter when they're hibernating, you're not going to do anything, and so you have to wait until they get out, and then you're spring and you start to see them emerge. So it's dictated by like season more so than the season
and the tag. Yeah. So in Wyoming, basically at least from what I found the last 3 years hunting bears in Wyoming, man, it seems like May 1st is when that rifle season starts, but it's also like right when the weather and the snow melt all matches up with those bears coming out and they're being more visible. I went archery hunting on the 20th or something of April because that archery season opens up the 15th of April in places here in Wyoming. And I found a grizzly bear track in a snowdrift, but I didn't find any black bear sign or anything. I think I was just too early. So last year I went out on May 6th and shot a bear. This year I went out on May 5th, and that's where our story begins. So you should interject with questions as we go, but I'm just going to tell you a good old fashioned hunting story. This is basically part 1 and 2 of what I hope is a 3-part saga. Okay.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah.
I should also interject a little bit here about the black bear thing that I said that for residents, it's a harvest ticket September 1st through the end of June, and you can get 2 bears. But certain areas have to have a permit. So if you draw unit 2, then you have to get a permit. So it's a little bit different. So it's not just as easy as that. But residents, 2 bears, September through June 30th. So you can get a fall bear and a spring bear if you wanted to, or 2 spring bears. Anyway, go ahead.
That's so legit. Okay. So I head out after work. I get off work at 4. I'm at the trailhead by 4:25, and I've got everything loaded up by 4:30. Right, like I'm heading up, and this spot is one drainage. It's the same trailhead that I shot my bear at. Took my bear off last year, but I went one drainage north instead of to the south drainage. As I'm hiking up there, keep in mind I was up in here scouting for bears and just kind of keep scouting as in I just was looking at the terrain and making sure that it looked like what I was looking for. I was up in there in the middle of March. So I'm hiking on in there, and the first thing is about a mile in, I find a mule deer shed, a nice 4-point. I'm like, oh, sweet, that's a good start. So I go up a little further, and I about trip over a spike elk shed. Oh, nice, that's a good addition. So I cross over this little fence. It's just a grazing fence, so it just sets apart the leases, and I look up and I'm like, holy crap, there is a giant 6-point elk shed right here. And it was right where I'd been in March, so I must be the only person who's been up in this little zone. So I pick up that giant 6-point and I'm like, geez, this is a heck of a find. What an evening, right? Like we're just getting started too. And I walk a little bit further and I look down and I'm like, oh, there's a fork and horn shed. So at this point I've scooped 4 sheds up and I haven't even got to my glassing spot. And as I'm holding this fork and horn shed in my hand, I look up, and there's a little brown blob sitting on the across the canyon from me. And I'm like, oh my God, that's a bear.
And what are you looking
Holy
for in
crap.
these, like the terrain that you're trying to scout or trying to look at? Like, what are you up here? It's just those tidal flats. It's those sort of things, unless it's fall bear, and you can see up on the mountains they're eating the blueberries. So, what terrain are you looking for in Wyoming?
So in particular, I'm looking for the steepest stuff I can find that still has good grass. So this stuff is basically cliffs and talus fields, like big rock fields, and grassy slopes, grassy and sagebrush slopes. So with timber on the north slope, sage on the south slope. You'll see this kind of characteristic in a lot of places in Wyoming, where you've got those timbered north slopes, sage south slopes, and then these kind of real steep canyons with a creek in the bottom. The other factor I look for is if you can find one of these drainages where two creeks come together. For some reason, that's a really it's been a productive feature for me. So yeah, so that's what I'm looking for. Okay, so I find this bear, and my goal this year, I've shot a handful of bears at this point, and they've all been like decent size. None of them have been small, but at the same time, I'm like, I think, I just love bear hunting, and I was done it on May 6th last year. I kind of want to, find a big bear, something exceptional. And the other side of this coin is Jess, my girlfriend. She hasn't shot a bear yet, and I'd really like to get her a bear. It just is like trying to just take it easy. So I pick up that fork and horn shed, look up, there's a bear sitting there, and I'm like, okay, well, that's a start. Like, there's no way this is going to be a very big bear. So I pull out my spotting scope, slap it down on my tripod, and I look at that bear. I'm like, huh, that's a large bear. That's one worth getting a closer look at. So I cache these 4 sheds up here, because I don't want to be carrying around a 20-pound 6-point elk shed with these other smaller ones. And I cache them, and I start working my way down the ridge to get closer. As I'm working my way closer, I find another shed. So I throw it on my
That's a nice
back.
spot, man. That's lucrative.
There's more to this story. So, I like deviate. I like, we interrupt this bear stalk to bring you a 3-point deer shed. Go slap it on my pack, and I weasel down to this cliff. And I'm sitting on this cliff, and I'm 300 yards away from this bear. I put my spotting scope up on it again, and I'm looking at this thing. I'm like basically looking at ticks on its butt. Like, I am so close with the spotting scope, and I'm like, dude, this is a big bear. He's like pigeon-toed. His front end is bigger than his back end by a long ways. He's got like his ears are sitting on the side of his head, and looks like he's got a pumpkin on his shoulders. I'm just like, dude, this looks like a really nice bear. And I sat there for a little while, probably 15, 20 minutes. So it was probably 40 minutes after I had first saw him, after I'd spent time in the first spot looking at him in the spotting scope, and the second time that I'm like, I need to just shoot this bear. So I weasel down to the next line of cliffs, and I'm directly across canyon from him, and it's 200 yards. So I lay down in the prone, rifle on my pack. I don't have a bipod on my rifle, and rifle on my pack, and I'm kind of in that reverse cambered position. I wish you could see my hands, anyone listening, because I'm doing like the thing. Anyway, this reverse cambered position where you're like scorpioning, your feet are above your head, but then like the way that rock sits is I'm sitting prone, and I sit there and I'm like starting to get really excited, right? Because I'm like, geez, this is a big bear, and I am in can't miss range. So I'm like, okay, 200 yards, just hold right on him. And I dry fire. I'm like, oh man, I am definitely excited at this point. And okay, time to rack one in, and I shoot, and that bear runs uphill and sideways, and I'm like, oh shoot, like I've seen this before where like someone will shoot and then the bear just takes off, right? And you need to keep shooting. Mm-hmm. And so he kind of slows down at another point to like I can't remember vividly if he was at a perfect standstill or if he was just very slow. And then I shoot again, and he takes off running. He takes off running that second time, and he runs right by an elk shed. And I'm like, looking up through my binos, like, oh shit, there's an elk shed. Well, okay, that's another landmark. And so I know I can go walk up to that elk shed and find his tracks and see, exactly what's happening there. And he runs down a little ways and he stops again. At this point, he's like at 350. And I range him, I hold high, and I touch off another shot. And then he runs straight down into the thicket, like into the bottom of this drainage, this gnarly timbered, willowy drainage. So you take your deep breath. I'm like, whoa, man, that was kind of a goat rope. I wish you would have just tipped over like last year. And so, I wait a few minutes, and then 15 minutes goes by, and I go up to that elk shed just to see what that, if there's any blood near that elk shed, and also to scoop the horn, right?
Of course.
Yeah. I don't find any blood right there, man. So that's like after the second shot, I didn't see any blood around that elk shed or anything, and I was like, well, that's not good. So I wait a few more minutes, probably 15, 20 more minutes, and so it'd been 30-ish. I realize now that I should have kept better track of this time stuff because, especially with bears, you want to give them plenty of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I okay, he went into the timber right next to the snow patch, and I went down to that snow patch, and there's blood in the snow patch. I'm like, okay. Good sign. So I'm looking at my watch now, and it's like 7:30-ish in the evening, and it gets dark in that next, 30 minute. It gets shooting light is an hour from then at 8:30. So I'm like, okay, I don't really want to go chasing a wounded bear by myself. And so I kind of sat there and was like, I called some buddies around to see if I could get someone to go in with me the next day, and I made the decision to back out.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plans shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
So that's part one.
Yeah. The like all animals are really tough. Then the first tag that I ever notched on a black bear was a bear that I didn't end up getting. Like I just felt it was perfect shot, and there was so much blood. And up here, if you're in one of those, you got the tidal grass, and then a lot of times there's like a flat, marshy area right behind it as soon as you get into the woods that has skunk cabbage. And so as it's running by these huge blades of skunk cabbage, like it just so much blood. And then it just, eventually becomes less and then less and then less. And I did the circles. Mm-hmm. Came back the next day, and then it was unbelievable. Like I just couldn't fathom what had happened to it. It looked like it was a good shot. I don't know if it was like Randy Newberg's podcast or Cody's podcast about some old guide who had their client had shot a bear and they couldn't find it. The trace just kind of ended, and then they sit down under a tree, and then drops of blood hit him in the hat because the bear had actually climbed the tree. And they say that, a wounded animal is always going to go downhill, but this one climbed a tree. And I'm like, dude, that's crazy.
That's absurd.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Right. All right, so phase 2.
So Yeah. So phase 2, I come in that next day. I got my friend Anna. Did you meet Anna when you were down here in Wyoming?
I haven't met anybody pretty much because
Okay,
it was
just Jess and I.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Anna, she's our field coordinator at the Wyoming Wildlife Federation, and she is just kind of like a comes across like a very average, like good-looking gal in her lower 20s, like who has a little puppy and all this stuff. But she absolutely crushes in the mountain. It's pretty fun. Her and Jess, man, are quite the duo. Anyway. She helped me pack out my bear this last year, or no, she helped me pack out my elk last year, and so she works in the same place I do, and we have a pack out clause. If one of our staff members has an animal down, you can take the day off to go help pack out.
That's awesome.
So anyway, she came in there with me that next day, and we start tracking, and for that first 250 yards, that bear just goes straight down into the thickest, nastiest stuff. There's some snow down there, and we're basically following a blood drop, foot track, in the snow, blood drop on a leaf. It's rubbing by on these little branches down low, and you can see the blood. And we're going along, and we're like, dude, this bear is going to be in the bottom right here. They're just going to hole up right there in the creek. And then we track that thing across the creek, and we're like, uh-oh. That's not good. And start climbing up the other side. And basically this bear, as he would go, basically downhill, side hill for a little ways. And then he'd take a 180-degree turn and go the upslope the other direction, kind of like traversing this hill. So that threw us for a loop. Every time he did that, we would lose our trajectory as we were following the track in blood. Right. And so we got in there and we're tracking by 7:30 in the morning because it's a little bit of a haul to get in there. And at 4 p.m., probably about 3 p.m., we run out of blood. And at 4 p.m., we're walking along his tracks in the snow in the bottom of the creek still, upstream, and there's no blood in his tracks.
Wow.
And so he eventually takes a left turn out of this drainage, actually goes towards the drainage I was in last year where I shot my bear. And on that big south slope that he walks across, it's dry as a popcorn fart, and you can't track anything. And there was no blood for a long ways previous. So, we kind of, after whatever that is, 9 hours of tracking and 3.85 miles on my Onyx of following him. Basically, we pulled the plug. Man,
that's rough.
Yeah. Side note, bright note. Anna did find the other side to that big 6.
Oh, really?
So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's the one silver lining of that situation.
In addition to that tracking clause, you also have a no reveal clause or a no return clause, because if you find a really good spot and you're hunting that spot and then you need someone to help out or help you out, can they then go back there, or it's you've never been here, you're going to help me out but you can't come back? Is that part of the clause?
I guess it would depend the spot. Anna is Anna, I would give her any spot she wanted. She's helped me a ton, and I want to see her do well. So yeah, that it's kind of one of those things where I was trying to get people to come in there, and I really wanted more than just 2 of us to go after this wounded bear. I was trying to get other people in town to come in with me, and I was promising the moon. I was you can hunt this spot, you can pick up the sheds in this spot, you can tell your friends, set up a bait, whatever you want. Just I need the help, Yeah. I don't want to get eaten. So, it's, man. So that was, as we turned away from that track, especially at the end of the snow tracks, that whole day I kept having hope that we'd turn them up eventually, because those bears don't bleed a whole lot normally, and they're kind of hard to find. It's
all internal.
Man, I was so bummed. I still am super bummed, but in a different way. I still have hope that I'm gonna find him dead or alive. So
there you go.
That's part 3.
Oh, man. That's tough. That is tough. When
Yeah.
are you going to head back out there?
As soon as we get off this call and I do a couple errands in town.
Oh, okay. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, that's what's it like getting that's just a resident you can get the tag?
No, it's an impossible draw. No one can hunt in Wyoming. And there's no bears here.
Yeah.
No, in all honesty, yeah, it's an over-the-counter tag. Last time, so I bought an over-the-counter non-resident tag that first year I lived here, and it was like $370, something like that. So, yeah, it's could be a free-for-all. You can also bait here, which is kind of why I think there aren't many people spot and stalking unless you're in spot and stock only areas. There's some zones that if it's really heavily grizzed out country, like anything over by Jackson and anything up by Cody, you can't run baits because they have too much conflict with the grizzlies in those areas. But if you don't have that conflict, then people are running bait barrel sites and it's all based on a quota too. So different units will shut down in the middle of the season as they kill sows. So like, actually I haven't checked yet, but the bighorns, that season usually is only 5 to 7 days long.
Oh, wow.
Because people are bad at shooting sows over bait. So we got to fix that.
Yeah, Cody had Tyler Friel on up from Fairbanks, and he says he sets his bait, and he'll have all kinds of bears come in, and so sometimes the black bears are the nuisance because he likes to take out a couple grizzlies. But
I bet.
Do you have to file like the location of where your bait is?
Yep. So it's actually a pretty cool system, and they went digital last year because of COVID, and they weren't having the offices open, and it's a slick system. I don't have a bait site picked out or anything. I just like spot and stalking too much. I like going and checking out different mountain ranges and stuff, and I'm not very patient. But they basically give you a one section, 100 it's a 1 mile by 1 mile square. Let's see, that'd be 640 acres that you can set your bait in that square. And then you have to be so far from a road and so far from a water source to set it. But then, yeah, so there's actually, there's a lot of opportunity to still set baits out. The really prime spots, you can guarantee there's somebody already setting a bait there. But, yeah, it's a pretty slick system that they've got going on.
I kind of get the same feeling about some of those grass flats that are close to town, like someone's going to be there. But it is fun when you're out there and you're just waiting, and then all of a sudden it's out, and not only out, but it's like 30 yards out. Like, dude, how did it get out there? This is a black animal walking around in green grass. How did I not notice it emerge and then walk that way? So sometimes, like, dude, I'm not very observant at all. I wouldn't make it.
Dude, I totally believe that. I'm like on that same page. It's interesting though, like once you do see a bear, like in the middle of like the open, you're like, oh yeah, that's very obviously a bear.
Yeah.
When you're glassing for them, you'll see like a rock or a stump or like a little inlet or something, and you'll be like, oh, what is that? Oh, it's just a stump.
Yeah.
look
Rocks look like bears,
like,
stumps look like bears, but bears don't look like stumps, and bears don't look like rocks. It's so different. Same thing with antlers. Like, oh, is that antlers? Like, no, that's not antlers. That's totally a stick. And then you see an actual deer. Yeah, that's a deer, and those are antlers.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So, anyway, last night I was telling you, I was like, I'm gonna go shoot right after work, because this is the big piece that I'm really stuck on, is how in the world did I miss at 200 yards? Because I haven't shot an animal at 200 yards in a long time, since 3 bears back, I guess. So I've got 6 or 7 big game animals. I've shot somewhere between 250 and 350 since then. I will admit, not all of those shots have gone as planned, and I've had a lot of follow-up shots depending on the situation. But I've recovered them all, and that's kind of anyway, it was a major hit to my confidence in shooting, and it really rocked me. Mm-hmm. So I went to the range last night, and I was gripping my rifle so dang hard that I was pulling at 100 yards. I don't think I have it right here, but I was pulling 3 to 4 inches to the right at 100 yards.
Wow.
It's really, really bad.
I've done that too. Like the looking and then the gripping. It just you got to chill, man.
Yep. So I would imagine, being that it was like, a quote unquote chip shot, I lost all fundamentals. They went out the window and I just started slinging lead. And I have no doubt in my mind that I just was making poor shots the whole time. Yeah. So good news is by the end of the shooting session last night, I had bullet holes that were splitting cardboard together.
Nice.
Where I wanted them. So I just got to really cool my jets when they get in there. And I don't know about you, man, but I think this is a good wake up call that I need to be, regardless of the ammunition shortage. I need to be practicing. And I shoot my bow a lot. I'm really dedicated because I respect the bow so much and the ability to make a shot count with the bow that I don't do it with my rifle. And I think we're all kind of in that same boat.
Well, it's a lot more fun to shoot your bow. You go out there, it's not loud. You don't really have to go anywhere. If you've got a big enough yard or driveway or something like that, you can just go shoot a couple, and it's just a lot easier. You don't have to go somewhere and there's other people and
Yeah, man. I do like shooting out at BLM land or something like that, national forest where you can just set up and shoot a rock or something at a long distance. Man. Yeah, this is a big wake-up call that I need to go do some more practicing.
That's the funny thing about people who advertise that their rifle is accurate out of the box. What are you talking about, man? I understand that you can have a rifle that is in good shape, that shoots pretty nice and clear and consistently, but ultimately it comes to the person behind. It's a great marketing thing. Hey, you don't have to do anything. You don't even have to practice. You buy this rifle, man, you're good to go. But yeah, I practiced a whole bunch before I left to go for the caribou hunt because I knew they'd be longer shots. A lot of my shots are 100 yards, 150 yards. But just feeling really good and confident going up in there. So you don't think about anything else. You just get it set up. And I was in a similar sort of situation where I was sliding down on some snow. So my feet were a little above my head. But I had did you have a bipod on your?
No, I've got to get a bipod, man.
That made a big difference too.
That was the final straw, basically. So I put a tripod attachment to my rifle or on my rifle, so I could slip. It's an Arca Swiss rail on my rifle, so I could put it on my tripod. But you don't get you don't get the same force leaning into your shoulder as I thought you would with a tripod or with a bipod. If you've got that tripod or Jesus Christ, I am so sorry for folks here. Bipod goes 2 legs, tripod 3 legs.
Yep.
Those bipods, you can load up so much more pressure on your shoulder and lean into those things and just have a much sturdier platform and feel like you don't need to be forcing that rifle back into your shoulder pocket with your right hand. I'm a right-handed shooter. So yeah, man, I think I just gotta bite the bullet, do it right. So
I gotta
practice those shots with the feet above your head.
Yeah. That's not something you can recreate when you're at the range without looking weird. But I did. I
tried last night.
Yeah, well, I bought a Swagger bipod. And the tension is interesting on it, and you can move it, and you can kind of adjust, which kind of looks cool. Because sometimes if you get set up and it's on a rock, then you have to lift more or you have to adjust. It's just different, and a follow-up shot is difficult because the thing moves and adjusts. But with that Swagger bipod, I'm not even sponsored by them. I'm just saying their name, that repetition, I am sponsored by them or something. But you can swivel and you can rotate, which is pretty cool, and you can make those micro adjustments, and then it still stays really, really really, really stable. I wasn't sure because you pull it out and it's like a strong bungee in there. So I wasn't sure if that would be sturdy enough. It feels like it's kind of flimsy, but yeah, it's really nice. And so you can get that, you can feel super.
Is it one of these Hunter series tripods?
Yeah, that's the exact one. For the guests,
I was looking at that.
Jaden put his cell phone up to the Zoom here, and it was the Swagger. Which one was that? That was the Hunter series, right?
Yep, the FDE Hunter series. It's just the brown version of the Hunter series bipod. There's the black Hunter series as well, and they've got Veil camo. But they're kind of out of stock in the short ones right now. Do you run a short one? A 29?
I had what was on sale, so I'm not actually exactly sure. I didn't even
I appreciate that about you.
Well, I got to save up for my Cam Hanes running shoes NFT,
FTE.
right? So yeah,
yeah, NFT.
But let me see if I can get. I hadn't heard about Swagger or anything. Like no one recommended it. I was just kind of looking for things, and it's. I don't know. Like I've never used a bipod before, so.
Man, those Swagger bipods seem legit. The other ones that are legit are the I just forgot the name of the Spartan Precision bipods. I've shot a couple rifles with those on. Jess has that whole system, but she lost the actual attachment, and that is the biggest downside is you lose that little detachable piece to the bipod. But it is sweet. I would get that if I had the coin to drop on it.
Yeah.
A friend of mine was just in the office the other day, and he actually I think is going to help me go look for this bear tonight. But he's got a Magpul bipod. Magpul is also a Wyoming company, so I always lean that direction if I can.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of good options right now. Harris bipods seem to be like in every sporting goods store on the planet, and I know my dad used to run a Harris bipod, and they're loud because they go squeak ding as they like collapse.
Oh, geez.
But they work really good.
Yeah. I have the Hunter 29.
Okay, yeah, that's the shorter one.
Yeah, cool. And it was a lot less expensive than the Black Hunter series or the FDE, but. Yeah, shoot.
Yeah.
It's just, you buy something that kind of helps out a little bit. Certainly better than trying to use your pack because the pack helps, but you still, those little adjustments where, like, no pack is going to be perfect. You put it on there, but it's still going to be a quarter of an inch or an inch or something like that off. So you have to either settle it or prop it up a little bit or do something weird. So those bipods are kind of nice.
Yeah, man. So what was your shooting regimen when you were trying to get ready for this caribou hunt?
I went almost every day for about a week and a half or so, and I'd go and I'd shoot, just 6 or so shots, not a ton, because sometimes you can kind of get in the rhythm, but then things change because everything heats up. So I'd just go and I'd shoot a couple, like they were all off the bipod from some different angles, and yeah, just being
trying to make sure
being
it's
calm, holding it steady, and then yeah.
And then just
I've never been instructed. I've never taken lessons, and so there's a lot of things that someone could probably teach me. But I'm self-taught with everything, fly casting and everything else. And so I don't know. I think there's a lot of probably fundamental things that would really help. But I just kind of do what I guess works. But
I listen to a lot of those long-range pursuit podcasts from Gunworks, and I really, if you go back a little bit, you can kind of tease out some really fundamental things that they're teaching in their shooting schools. Man, growing up though, and you're probably the same way. It was kind of like, hey, here's a rifle, like go shoot it, and you just kind of did and made it work as you kind of were learning the rifle system. But after picking up on some of these fundamentals, like gripping that stock, that has been very clearly my issue. And that was something that they pointed out in those podcasts. And then I rechecked it with a friend of mine who's a great shooter. His name's at Backcountry Muleys on Instagram with Derek Henderson. He's my man. Anyway, I was asking Derek. I was like, dude, I'm pulling like my first shots out of this rifle. My first shot has been hitting right, and he's like, most of the time that's a gripping issue. And I was like, nah, it's probably a cold bore issue.
Good. It's good.
So there's kind of that take on fundamentals of shooting and stuff. I just really wish that maybe we change the way that we talk about shooting. And right now it's being driven home that like people need to be shooting a lot if they want to shoot long distance, but gosh dang it, people need to shoot a lot if they want to shoot any distance.
Yeah.
At critters.
Well, I think part of it, you go out and find a spot, but you never know who's going to be out there. And so if you go out there and I just want to be able to relax, I want to be able to walk down to my target whenever I want to, just at my own pace. But you get to a spot and you got, someone there with an AR who's going crazy, which is, that's fine, whatever, that's do fine. Whatever. But that sort of intimidation, or if there's 4 or 5 people, then you got to wait till everybody is done. And do they have the same ethics as you? And, okay, are we going to head down range now, and just all the rules and ethics, and then the sound, and it's just not an environment that some people really like. And so you have some of those outdoor shoot on BLM land things where people just go out the road and shoot. Some of those areas,
and they always trash those areas.
It's terrible.
It's absurd.
You're going to find a TV or a refrigerator, and it's one thing going out there and finding biodegradable clays that people shot with 12 gauge, and then they picked up their shells. Like, okay, that's one thing. You can shoot some clays here. Okay. But yeah, it's too bad. You almost don't want to be seen at one of those spots because you look like part of the problem, even if you pick up your shells. Kind of tough. I think those sort of things. And then the effort, you get home from work, whatever, and you should shoot a little bit, but if it's a 15-minute drive to wherever it is, I'll go during the weekend, but there's going to be a ton of people during the weekend, so there's a lot of these things that kind of deter people from shooting a lot. But thankfully, when I was getting ready for the caribou, there was hardly anybody there, and I saw my buddy there twice, and so we were able to kind of shoot, and it was kind of casual and fun.
What caliber are you shooting right now?
270.
Or what cartridge?
Because that's what I happen to have ammo in. I have some for my 30-06, which I bought my 270 when I was in California, and that was the first gun I ever bought. And I got deer tag, and it was, a large area, but it's California. There was like 30,000 tags and a 4% success rate or whatever. It was insane. I went there on opening weekend, and it was a 2-week season, and just people everywhere. It was not safe at all. Saw one doe that was just running for its life. So then I started figuring out what I wanted. It's a Savage 270. And so I bought the 30-06 being a little bit bigger, but I thought that it would replace my 270. But I like that 270 better. So I have this 06 I don't use a whole lot, but I want to get rid of some of the ammo. So I'll probably take that up for the bears.
There you go. Man, I really like my 270. The scope doesn't track, so like it's kind of a 150 yard rifle because you got to keep it on 1 power. You got to keep it on 3 power. You have to keep it on a single thing that it's sighted into. But 270 is a great round. Yeah. I don't know if you had seen this 6.8 Western that just came out. Have you?
No, I'm not really big into
the caliber stuff.
Caliber stuff. So I'm just shooting my 270. I use that for black bear. I used it for caribou. Use it for deer. Use it for everything. But.
Well, this should make you feel good because basically what they did was they just beefed up the 270. Actually, they made it. It's basically just a 270 short mag, but with the ability with a faster twist rate barrel in the factory rifles. So I'm that reaffirmed to me that I should probably get a better scope on my grandpa's old rifle and keep using that 270. Especially for like antelope or whatever. Those are great, or deer. Those are great rifles, man.
Is it difficult finding more ammo for some of those? Like, I would assume that 270, 06, like those are some of the more standard, easiest ammo to find. Is If you get more specific, is it more difficult to find ammo for those?
I'll say like, so my 300 short mag, I'm like an idiot. I passed up buying a whole bunch of them off the shelf when they were the only ones left on the shelf. So like probably 3 months ago, I saw them and I was like, sweet, my rifle's still here. Like, I don't need to buy some. I should have bought some because they're not there anymore. So, I think the 270 30-06, the 6.5 Creedmoor, 300 Winchester mag, not the short mag, and 7mm ammunition, all those like standard go-tos, they're so hard to find right now. Jess shoots a 6.5 Creedmoor, and I've been looking, since the election.
Well, they're probably pumping those out faster than anything, just because they're in the most demand. But the demand is just astronomical compared to some of the more specialized rounds.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the other thing is that the components, the manufacturing and the component haven't been at full capacity with different shutdowns of factories. So, in the next couple months, I would imagine that it picks up. And also there's this element of like, hopefully this demand thing is like going to slow down a little bit.
Right. I remember when it was almost impossible to find 22 rounds up here.
Is it still hard? I haven't looked.
No, 22's been pretty good. You could go into town. There's a couple spots where you could pick up, and they were allowing. It may have been one, but that was the one area that was kind of stocked. You had a bunch of 22. Then you also had some. You had, not anymore, but 12 gauge just practice rounds. But any sort of duck hunting round is pretty much gone. So it's hard to find. I don't even bother checking anymore because they'd put some out. But I can still get 22 rounds if I wanted to right now. I could go to the stores and pick those up. But 270's been gone for months and months and months. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to. I actually bought a whole bunch of reloading supplies and sent them to my dad, but now I have to go to my dad to pick up my ammo that he reloaded. So I'll probably get home here in the next couple weeks to go hang out with family and stuff. I haven't seen him since last summer, so it's time to make a trip. But I think if you're in that reloading game and you had the stuff previously, then it seems like you could probably pick up more.
Yeah. So what's else on the list? You've got you're going to go after the bear. Hopefully you find that guy, and then what else is on the list?
So this bear in particular is my goal right now. Like that's going to kind of consume me until I figure out what the heck is going on and or find him. Previous to this experience with this bear, though, I was really hoping to go bear hunt in places I wanted to deer hunt. That was kind of like how I was going to pick spots here near town. There's a couple other areas too, and like I said, we're going to try to get Jess a bear. So depending on what happens with this situation, we're going to be going and doing that. She's out of town right now until next week, so I'll have at least probably another 6 days of solo-ish trying to look for this bear before she gets home, and then we can either rally the troops in that drainage or go do something else. Then we have basically, June turns into fishing season and starting to look at bucks.
Nice.
It's not that you like burn all of your energy looking for deer, because it's like the days are so long. You got to get up at 3 a.m. just to look at the deer near the house, right? But it is definitely turning into deer season by the end of June. So
nice.
Then it's scout season, and I have a buddy of mine that picked up he picked up one of these A series mountain goat tags down here. And I bailed on our deer hunting plans with him last year, so I owe him this year. So I'm going to go do some mountain goat hunting with him in August. So once August hits, man, it's off to the races, and that's only three months out, I think. So
goes so fast. Oh,
Yeah, we were talking about it the other day and was like, what happened to April? I have no idea.
Yeah, it's sometimes nice when you're getting towards something that you really want to do, but at the same time, you think, hey, man, we can't keep this pace up because I'm going to wake up tomorrow and be 60.
Yeah, and I was listening to this. Actually, it was a Cody Rich podcast. Just listened to the beginning of it yesterday, and the guest he had on was like, he was in this job that he is like, it was the same task every single day, and he saw the writing on the wall and was like, I can see the stop sign from here. Like, I can see my retirement because it's the same task every day, and he didn't have like his side project that he's doing or whatever. He's working a lot. And I am, I think, maybe a little more short-term focused because I know that if you're too worried about these things in the future, you're going to miss the present, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
for sure.
I will say that's not great for my financial situation, though.
That's such a tough balance because you don't want to deprive yourself of experiences, but at the same time, you don't want to ruin future experiences by living in the now or being selfish right now. Mm-hmm. So Abby's pretty good at keeping me in check. I was convinced I needed a new chart plotter for my boat because the chart is not very good at all, and so if I'm looking at one spot and it's 120 feet deep and it's 80 feet, a little bit over, I don't know what happens in between that spot. So I could be totally off a shelf. It could be a bench. It could be like, who knows? And so when I'm looking for a spot to fish, like I don't really have the information I need. And so I was about ready to drop $900 on a new Garmin.
Whew.
But then I thought, like I got an app on my phone for $20 for the year, and that gives me all the stuff that I need. So then I'd be buying $1,000, system so I could just use your phone, man. Just get a USB port in the console to keep the phone charged. Use that, save money. I'm like, and I haven't even gone back. I just thought that's great. So, it's good to have someone to reel you in.
They're very hard, man. Like, I'm at this place right now. Like, I was saving money on ammunition, by not buying those other boxes. And I wasn't practicing, in this last couple months. But right now, I would have given a left leg to have been practicing and have been on my A game when I shot that bear. So, it's always a balance. It's tough.
Yeah, and you don't even have to go out and shoot a box or two. Like, you can just go out and shoot a couple of shots. Just keep in that rhythm. And then also, a buddy of mine, when he shoots his bow, he shoots, one shot. And just like, this is my one shot. I'm going to go out there. I got to do everything right on this one. I can't do a couple throwaways and then eventually get to it. It's this one shot right now. So shooting one shot per day, that's great. Mm-hmm. You do that same sort of thing with shooting the rifle. If you shoot it once a week, half box, 3 shots, something like that, then it's better than nothing. So you don't have to spend a fortune in ammo. But
no, did you see on Instagram me doing that cold bow challenge a couple weeks ago?
Maybe. Let me go back. No,
so
I don't remember it.
Okay. So Rockslide holds this cold bow challenge. You get 5 shots. They have to be held on different days, and you have to pick your your size of kill zone. Your maximum effective range is what your MER, and then you cannot practice in between shots. So you get 1 shot a day, 5 days, and you can't practice in between. And so I picked 50 yards, and I picked like the vital size on this target that I have. It's a 6-inch it's like kind of a 6-inch by 9-inch oval type shape. And I think I was 2 of 5. And that was humbling as heck, because I'm sitting there stacking them in there with the other thing I had broadheads on. I'm stacking them in there with field points as I'm like mid our practicing session, and then we go to 1 shot at a time, and it's a different world, man.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters when you're hunting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, man, I'll let you get out to part 4 of the story. I'm going to start at part 1 of I might put some game cameras out and then go look for a bear myself, a little scouting trip. So,
when does it really heat up for you guys?
There are some people that are picking them up now, but the next couple weeks it's good. We've emerged. We got some warm, we got some wet, and so the tidal flats are starting to really come alive, and the bears are out. And sooner than later, I think a lot of people who want bear with an ice coat, but and you're required to salvage the meat and the hide up until the end of May, and then starting in June, you salvage one or the other. So a lot of people kind of prefer that come up from down south because they don't want to have to deal with taking the meat back too, because that's a couple $100 in a cooler or a fish box or something like that. So
that's weird that it changes. Do you know any reason why that is?
I'm not sure. I don't know why it changes, but
that's something that we're working on in Wyoming, is looking at why we don't require taking out the meat with bears. So anyway, I was just curious.
Yeah, June's the only month that you don't have to. Well, no, sorry. April, May, it's both, and then June, it's one or the other, and then same thing in the fall, it's one or the other. So,
All right. Yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, it's been great to catch up. I was listening to your podcast the other day about. I'm trying to remember the fella's name who's a guide and outfitter for
Lynn Hoffman
and stuff, and you got me. Yeah. It was very good. So keep up the awesome work on these podcasts.
Cool. Thanks.
I appreciate you having me on, and I love catching up.
He there was his Instagram story showed that he got to King Salmon, but Alaska Airlines didn't have his gear, so he's there to start his 10-day trip, and he doesn't have his gear.
Ooh,
that's rough,
especially as the guide.
That's
that
rough. Yeah, but all right, man. Good. Thanks again. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.
All right, talk to you later.
See ya.